Hello there, y'all. I'm Rain, and this is Fennec Fables, where we delve into some fun prompts for adding depth to your TTRPG games, to give you some interesting ideas to think about as you play or prepare. It's an unsurprising fact that, in the game sphere of tabletop role-playing games, a lot of the focus falls on those that run the games. Whether the term used is Dungeon Master, Game Master, Referee, or Storyteller, or some other nomenclature, they are the ones holding quite an important part of the table experience in their hands. But with that said, they are only a part of the overall experience. As someone that has spent a lot of time on both sides of the screen, I think it's time we all had a look, not at what it takes to be a good game master, but on how to be a good player. Not only to improve your experience at the table, but the experiences of everyone else participating at the table as well, the game master included. This video is not meant as a call out or to deride anyone for how they play, but I'm hoping that maybe folks might watch it and listen to it and take a look at how they may be playing as well and how that may be affecting others around them. There's a lot of talk about player agency when it comes to the table, and I feel that there's a large focus on that being purely in the fiction of the game, when there is also a lot that can be happening above board that can be looked at as well. This whole video had been an idea that I've been contemplating for a bit, but a post I saw recently really spurred me to action. That being that GMs are asked to do more and more to make their worlds inviting, but a lot of players won't even take their shoes off at the door, which really grabbed a fundamental idea of mine that, as of late, many game masters from my own experiences are being treated less like players and more like facilitators. To give it a better description, they are no longer someone at the table playing, but instead are the computer that is used to play. That being said, I'm going to try to break this up into 4 parts. In no particular order, that being engage, being considerate, compromise and flexibility, and communication. Each of these areas add up to the sum total of playing a game and having everyone enjoy it. There is going to be some overlap as things may not be completely covered in some spots and may be partially covered in others, and that's the joy of games. Everything's a bit of a Venn diagram in some respects. Part 1, Engage. This topic is going to be one of those most straightforward but also a bit diverse, but engage with the game. Whether it's the plot hooks, the NPCs, the players around you, or even the game itself, please engage with it. I'll start with that last part, but one of the things I love about tabletop role-playing games is that everyone is entering into a space with an agreed upon method of engagement, that being the rules. Depending on the system you're playing in, these rules can be the size of a note card or a whole book. Now, no one is asking you to have an eidetic level recall, but if you're going to participate in a game, at least have a functional knowledge of the game. It is so immensely helpful for all those involved in the experience. Of course, we all make mistakes and forget, but that's what the table is there for, to fill in the gaps of our knowledge and help one another if you do forget something. That said, at least knowing what your player character can do and how any of its functions work is a great help. If you can, and you read how other things work, that's a grand and great bonus, but at the bare minimum, know how your player character functions. I'll also add in that it's good to know the rules, but it's also good to know how to help with it and not hinder. Of course, speak up if something has been missed, but it's good to know when to let go of something instead of pressing it. Along with this, it's important to consider that the game you're in and how to engage with it. If your game is meant to be a gritty, harsh crime noir, then approach that game with that tone in mind instead of as if it was some sort of jocular farce, and vice versa. There is, of course, space for comedy and tragedy and comedy, but it's all about timing. Approach the game where it is at and go with it. When someone is approaching anything with sincerity, whether the game master or fellow player, it's devastating to have all that undercut because someone just couldn't resist slipping in a dick joke. This is a personal anecdote, but I've had many a serious, dangerous scene I've spent time setting up ruined like this. It's already quite hard to have people allow themselves to feel vulnerable and weak in a moment, and then to have someone blurt out something ridiculous because they couldn't let a moment carry sucks so much energy out of a scene. I had an undead villain taking a moment to speak down to a party of players after they were nearly dead. He was saying a bit of monologue and pontificating, and of course, some player interjects calling him Bone Daddy for no reason, and like that, the moment is gone. The scene is no longer scary, it's just funny. And in a way, you're robbing yourself and the other players, and even the game master, from what would have been a very tense and interesting moment. I'm not saying that there's no scene that can ever be undercut, but it's important to look at it and consider why. Another part of engaging is not only with plot hooks, but in the other players as well. We all love to have our moments of spotlight, but if the only times you care about what's going on is when you're directly involved, it's really unfair to the other players. It's important to be a fan of those around you and help raise them up as much as they raise you. In the game space, we are all chasing a particular bit of fiction, so working together to make that a reality is so important. Calling back to engaging with the game as it is, if someone is playing a PC as a secretive loner, then treat them as such. If someone wants to be the jovial scamp, help them do so. Within reason, of course. But overall, everyone is trying to explore, and if you don't interact with them, they likely won't have reasons to interact with you. This goes along with when you make the PC and having their entirety of it being plotted out. You should have an idea of who your character is, but there should be room for them to grow. We all know the jokes of having PC backstories being a novel, but if all the best moments have already been done, then where do they have to go? Along the same vein, make someone that has a reason to be engaging with the world. Whatever game you are playing, whatever tone you are aiming for at the table, whatever group you're playing with, it is so exceedingly important to make a player character that has a reason to actually engage. We've all been at the table where someone made a baker or edgy loner that had to be cajoled and pushed to go anywhere because, why would my PC care? While it is important for whoever is running the game to give you reasons, it is the duty of the player to find a reason to join as well. While it is interesting to read about someone that has to be pushed into an adventure, it is quite another matter for other people to have to convince someone to play along. Especially if it's a recurring thing, it is quite possible to make an edgy loner, sniveling thief, or even a happy stay-at-home gardener who can realize why they're being called to action. To sum it up, if you can't see why a PC would want to join along, then make someone that would. That little bit of the Game Master vent aside, let's recap. Engage with the rules. Learn what you can and try to be a part of it instead of a piece that's moved about. Engage with the game. Take it as it's presented and try to mesh with its tone and theme. Engage with all the players on both sides of the screen. You are but a part of the whole experience and not just there when being talked to. Part 2. Consideration. This one is a bit more nuanced, but when it comes to a game, it is very important to see the others at the table as much as oneself. From how much focus you draw to letting others shine, or even what you may do to the others. One of the key things is knowing that the game, while about you, isn't all about you. Whether it comes down to plot or the actions you take, others will be affected by what you do. There's a phrase often tossed about at TTRPG tables. It's what my character would do. And while in some aspects it's important to show that the brash character will be brash, the unintelligent character will be, for a lack of a better word, dumb, or a silly character will be a clown, it is good to know that it is not all in a vacuum, and your character knows there are others around themselves. Your PC may be a scoundrel and a thief, but they know they need allies, and taking from them will piss them off. So why would they do that? Knowing that the other players likely can't walk away from you because of a game is, to be blunt, a dick move. When playing, take the other players and their fun into consideration along with their own. One way I may recommend to do this is to maybe step out of character for a moment and speak to the group. Something akin to the lines of, hey y'all, I want to try doing risky behavior X and Y consequence might happen. Would anyone have issue with that? In this way, you are opening the moment to others and making sure that they aren't being adversely affected. This can, of course, depend on the game or group you're in, but you will have to feel out these choices and calls as you play and gain a better trust among everyone. It also opens up the chance for the pseudo let me at 'em moment, where maybe someone falls to a baser instinct, but their party catches it and holds them back, still having a fun or interesting moment without upsetting the other players at the table. Speaking of other players, it's also important to know that the game master, storyteller, or whatever title they have is also a player. They themselves are trying to have fun and want to enjoy the experience. Speaking from my own experiences, it is so disheartening to spend time making places, people, and plot hooks only to have them soundly burned down, killed, or rebuffed to go and do something random. It is totally fair and valid to not be interested in something, and we'll be getting into communicating these things later, but in many respects, the game world is like a toy box, and destroying someone's toys just because you're personally not interested in it is unkind to say the least. All this to say that when you're playing at the table, digitally or physically, think of all those around you and know that they too are trying to have fun, and that while everyone is looking for a good time, no one person's fun is more important than another's. Which leads us to the next part. Part 3. Compromise and flexibility. There is a power dynamic in most TTRPGs that I feel isn't quite understood sometimes. The storyteller sets up the world and its actions, but the players are the ones that nudge it around. Very much like a Rube Goldberg machine, they can interject, stop, or even cause all of it to begin to happen in the first place. There's also a very important give and take that has to occur for any game to play well. A back and forth of compromises and understandings. This can be like the players having a bad run and contending with the consequences of the story, but rebounding later and making it all the more fun of it. Or it can be the game master realizing they made a mistake, and the players are getting a brilliant moment of victory from that. This can also be with how the game is going or how anyone wishes to proceed at any time. There are going to be moments when someone at the table wishes to do something, and sometimes the game master is on board, but others, they will not. It's often brought up about how TTRPGs are improv and the ideas of yes and are said, but it's entirely possible to have just a no, and no is a complete sentence. Games are a balance of improv and rules, and which one takes precedence can fluctuate depending on the group. But with that, no, there is also a myriad of other things that can go back and forth. Those wacky plans that should never have worked but RNG aligned, the why not of rolling with the point brought up and seeing how it goes. To take, you also have to give, so trusting on both sides of the screen that there is a reason, and to trust is a key thing. We all want to succeed, but without the chance to fail, what does success even look like? So when the person running the game mixes an idea, see if there's part of it that they liked or are okay with. If not, let it go and carry on. In the future, it's likely that there will be another thing that they will be on board with. As an example, some games may not have all the options you're expecting available for whatever reason. Could be narrative or plot related, could be a balancing thing. It could even be that they just aren't ready or able to contend with it. We've all started somewhere, and whatever makes it easier and accessible to play is better than not playing at all. But the game master should work with you as much as you work with the game master. Trust each other, work with each other, and try to make the experience as fun as you can with what you have. It's a game after all, and we're all trying to relax. Which leads to our final section. Part 4. Communication. So I lied a little bit before when I said that there was no particular order. Because while the first 3 I felt could all be moved around and still work, I think that the true cornerstone of making any game work is communication. Hell, it's the cornerstone of making life work, if I'm being honest. Effectively trying to talk to someone or a group is absolutely vital when it comes to games. Whether you're trying to pitch a character concept, explain why a certain plot hook or story isn't working for you, or even trying to explain something that is bothering you, it is exceedingly important to voice these things and not let them fester and grow into resentment. Speaking from experience, I have forced myself to stay in games because I was unable or unwilling to bring up pain points, and it sucked all the fun out of it for me. When it comes to communication, some of the most important things I feel need to be said are the method of communicating, the message, and the tone. Some things are best said face to face, while others can be handled better in a call or even in a written format like text or email. It's hard to really give exact reasons for each, but if you can, I find actually talking makes it much easier. When it comes to the message, know what you're trying to say. No one's expecting a boardroom level speech, but have what you want to discuss ready in your mind. If you're upset that Tammy keeps talking over you, and have examples that express how it happens and how it makes you feel. But with that, the last thing is tone. When you're talking to someone, try to come in considerate and truthful. Saying hurtful things or being passive-aggressive does not help you in getting your message across. You want the other party you're talking to be open to what you have to say, and know one wants to listen if they feel they're being confronted. After that, though, is one of the most important parts. Listening to what they have to say in response. In the decades I've been playing, a good 90% of table issues or pain points happen because of miscommunication. Either someone assumed something that they shouldn't, didn't realize what they were doing was harmful or annoying to another, or quite possibly they thought the other person was on board for it. It's a meme at this point, but talking to one another at the table before a game, during a game, and after a game really is one of the most effective ways of making a game group function. At the end of the day, everyone participating wants to have a good time. Why else would we play otherwise? I'm hoping that folks that watch this can take some of this to their heart and really internalize it. If you think that this might be useful to someone, then please share it with them. I want to see more games lasting longer. Outside of contending with qualms or concerns at the table, communication is also important in the game itself. I'm sure many of you have played where you've reached a moment where someone starts playing 20 questions asking about things in a room before arriving at the thing they actually wanted to know or try. Stuff like, what does that wall look like? How far away is it? How tall is it? Etc. When what they really wanted to ask is how difficult would it be to climb this wall to flee the enemy? If you can, I recommend trying to get in the habit of trying to tell the others what you're intending to achieve, which both speeds up the game and gets everyone in the loop on what you're after. This way the game master also doesn't misinterpret your goals and can even adjust the things that need to be done to better suit the action you are trying to undertake. We have all seen a plan misunderstood by a participant leading to a disastrous result after all. But with that, I think I've covered all the things I was hoping to in the general, of being a better player at the table. If you can, why not share your own examples of misunderstood plans down below and even share your own bits of advice to be a better player. I had wanted to put things in like taking notes and bringing snacks to treat everyone, but I feel that something best left to the table to work out. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and share it with the others, as it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm as it is. I'm working on my way to 500 subs and I'm eager to reach that lofty goal. The Etsy has a brand new sticker up made by my dear friend Kino. Hey Kino! So please do check it out. If you enjoy answering TTRPG prompts or questions, please join me on Twitter or Blue Sky, where I post daily, which is in the description down below and linked on the main channel page. Who knows? Your responses may be part of a future video. If you have any suggestions for future topics, I'm always interested in what folks would like to hear, and you can send them either by email or by joining the channel Discord, where you can chat with me and fellow cool people. Thanks again, y'all, and I hope these videos were useful to you and help you tell better tales. Bye!